Radio. 212.
No, it's I think been updated.
This is a YouTube check. 1212.
They were gonna check on the Wi-Fi.
Volume is up now, so you should be getting this. Try it.
1212.
About a 30-second delay.
One two one two. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So that's working. Five. Oh, you already started?
I did, but I scheduled it for 10, so
okay.
it's not gonna do anything till then.
Okay, cool.
Sweet. All
All
right.
right, good deal.
Thank you.
And does he have a, I guess he has a graphic for the meeting at some point.
Yeah, we have a PowerPoint that will be put up. I think he's waiting to connect to the Wi-Fi though, so
Oh,
we
let me
can
call Glenn.
access it.
Okay.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not a
All right. He's in a meeting. I had to send him a text. So.
Okay. Thank you.
He
Early
changed.
meeting on a Monday.
Yeah. Huh?
It's an early meeting on a Monday.
You know, they changed the doggone. It used to be password 5. Now they changed it to 4 something, something, something. You know, and then they act parochial with it, you know. It's like it's a private key or something, you know. Get the damn password, man. You
It's
know?
a guest password.
Yeah, it's a guest password. Come on, guys. It's not like nobody can use it outside the building anyway. Do we have a mic on? 212.
Good morning, everybody. This is just to let you know we'll get started in a couple of minutes.
Good morning. I would like to call the Monday, July 14th Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting to order. We will begin with roll call. Candace Forrest. Present. James.
Present.
Tamara Eggins. Jose Alvarez is absent. Ramiro Diaz.
Present.
Alfonso Gonzalez is absent. Jason Richards.
Present.
Okay. We need to defer the June minutes to the August meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Richards, to defer our June meeting minutes to the next meeting. Still do a roll call vote, right? Roll call vote, Todd James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries.
Please make note that the board will recess at approximately 1 p.m. if the meeting has not already been adjourned, and we will reconvene at approximately 1:30 p.m. As a reminder to applicants, action that the board takes today will be released in the form of a disposition notice by July 24th and sent via email and mail to the applicant, as well as posted on the One Stop app for other interested parties. Requests that the board votes to approve must show compliance with any noted provisos before the case is finalized and granted final approval. 2 items on today's agenda have been withdrawn. Item number 1, BZA 02925 for the property at 2420 or New Orleans Street. And item number 2, BZA 030-25 for the property at 4611 Gawain Street. Drive. We will now begin with unfinished business for variances. Will the chair please read the hearing rules for variances?
Rules and procedures for public hearings, variance requests. The following procedures shall be observed during the hearing. Each speaker shall give their name and address prior to speaking on the proposal. The applicant or representative will speak first. The presentation shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes for each applicant or representative speaker, but in no event shall the cumulative presentation total by applicants or their representatives exceed 10 minutes. Proponents or persons in favor of the proposal will speak next and be allowed 2 minutes per speaker. Opponents or persons in opposition of the proposal will speak next and be allowed 2 minutes per speaker. The applicant or representative will be allowed a rebuttal. The rebuttal shall be limited to a cumulative maximum of 3 minutes. For an exceptional case, the time limitations may be extended by the presiding officer with the approval of the board. As the board deems necessary, the case may be acted upon at this meeting or deferred for additional information or review. If the case is deferred, it will be acted on at a subsequent meeting as provided by law. All proper parliamentary procedures shall be followed, including recognition of speakers, relevance of argument, and absolute prohibition of applause or demonstration. Standard of review. The Board of Zoning Adjustments shall not authorize a variance from requirements of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance unless it finds, based upon the evidence presented to it, that each case has satisfied the 9 criteria listed in Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance.
Thank you. Item number 1, docket BZA 029-25 for the property at 2420 New Orleans Street has been withdrawn. Item number 2, docket BZA 03025 for the property at 4611 Gawain Drive has been withdrawn. BZA 03225 for the property at 849 Odin Street.
The next item is BZA docket 3225 for the properties located at 849 to 853 Odeon Street. The site currently consists of 2 lots, one with 1 structure each. For the purposes of this report, Structure A refers to the structure on the 849 Odeon property or proposed Lot 16A, and Structure B refers to the structure on the 853 Odeon property or proposed Lot 15A. The applicant proposes to re-subdivide the lots to correct the current position of the interior connecting lot line, which bisects a portion of Structure B. The requested variances for proposed Lot 16A are from Article 13, Section 13.3.A.1, Table 13-2, lot area and lot width. And the requested variances for proposed Lot 15A are also from Article 13, Section 13.3.A.1, Table 13-2, lot area and lot width. Staff has determined that a nonconforming use determination from the Department of Safety and Permits may be required prior to staff's review for the Board of Zoning Adjustments request. The applicant is aware that they do need to initiate this request. Therefore, the staff recommends an additional 60-day deferral of the requested variances.
Thank you. Is the applicant present for BZA docket 032-25? Is there anyone here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 032-25? Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
If a motion's in order? Well,
Yep, proceed.
all right, Madam Chair, regarding docket BZA 033-2, regarding docket BZA 032-25, I move to defer the matter for 60 days.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 032-25, it's been moved by Commissioner Richards, second by Commissioner Diaz to defer the item 60 days. Roll call vote, Todd James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yay. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
The next item is BZA docket 033-25.
Docket 003-25 is a continuation of a case that we've heard a few times. It involves the subdivision of a townhouse where each lot has insufficient, proposed lot 16A and proposed lot 18A both have insufficient lot area. And last time that we met, I was sent with the mission of talking to someone in safety and permits and seeing if there were any architectural things that would preclude, what would be necessary for this to be a legal division. And we had two things we were going to look into. One, to speak with J. Dufour in safety and permits and see what will be required architecturally. And two, to speak with someone in the law department to see if there was any options of us adding that as a proviso. So subsequent to the meeting, I did go to safety and permits and speak with Jay. And what he did was, because he didn't see a route to add something to the BZA waiver, he did go in as a requirement of the approval of the subdivision and add language saying that it would have to be, okay, so this is exact. Staff met with Jay Dufour, the chief building official in safety permits. While he noted that he has no ability to recommend anything to the BZA, he did put the requirement in LAMA for the approval of subdivision 00725, which states licensed architect must confirm that IRC 2021 code requirements for a townhouse are met. So that was done as a stipulation for the approval of the subdivision.
Is that the end of?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that's it.
Is the applicant present for BZA docket 033-25?
He did email me. He said he could not come. If you remember the last two meetings, we had to push it to the end because he had to leave at his lunch break. He said that he couldn't make it to the West Bank. Yeah.
Is there anyone here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 033-25? Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just a quick question. So coming back to that piece, has that been communicated to the applicant in terms of what the code requirements may end up being?
Yes, he actually emailed me his exact words. I can't make Monday's meeting on the West Bank. Also, there was an email asking me to get an architect to weigh in on whether or not this property would meet the requirement for a townhouse. Can you just please give me a call on that? So he did receive an email directly from Safety and Permits.
Okay.
I know part of the discussion from the last meeting was kind of tied to this, these building code requirements, and I recognize that the chief building official submitted some additional language around the subdivision approval. To the points that you brought up last month, Commissioner James, does that satisfy what some of the concerns were? Because I know another question was whether or not we could put in any type of proviso around building code requirements. And I don't know if that's necessary at this point, or...
Yeah, so what was the coordination from the legal side?
I did, let me look up, what was it, Shannon? Who were the two people? Hannah. Okay. So I asked, in regards to proviso, can it be added after the board? Oh no, this was a response I got, and I think there may have been some, maybe a little miscommunication. I said we have a re-subdivision application that requires a waiver. I've attached the staff report. Do you think that the language added by J. Dufour to the subdivision requirements is sufficient, or is there proviso language that needs to be added as well? And the response I got was, safety and permits may require that, however, proviso cannot be added after the board has voted on the matter. Therefore, I would recommend providing a copy of the final report to the applicant along with the decision letter to keep them informed. So I don't,
Yeah, because it
So
wasn't
that-
that we
that's-
wanted to add
yeah,
it
it wasn't after the fact.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I don't.
So what you got?
I would add that we close out variances and subdivisions simultaneously when, they're part of the same overall request. So we couldn't close out this variance request unless the subdivision was, it had met all of the comments and was ready to be closed out also.
So does that mean that we have to defer this until that's resolved?
No.
So I'm just trying to understand what would be the legal triggers. So again, if it's gonna end up being a proviso where we add language related to the building code, is that sufficient in terms of a final triggering mechanism before a resub could be finalized?
I think it would be redundant, because basically the proviso, whatever he provided Jay to get the subdivision approved, he would provide you with the same thing for fulfillment of the proviso. Which are, whatever this IRC 2010, the architect building code stuff.
So
Technical term.
what the chief building official said is that an architect has to confirm that those requirements for a townhouse are met. And so what you're saying is that if we put in a proviso, he's gonna have to provide the same confirmation to us that he would have to provide to safety and permits for the resub.
Yes, it would be the same thing. Just, I don't want to speak, I don't know what IRC 2021 code requirements are, but I'm speculating that it's what you're looking for to guarantee that this is, has the
Correct.
stuff.
I would add that because the proposed or the recommended proviso for the variance is for the subdivision to be finalized, that would all be captured at that point before the subdivision is finalized and before the variance is then finalized.
So you would need to receive a permit before the resub could be final, essentially. Building permit.
Well, before he could go get a building permit and do any of that, this stuff would have to be closed out
So that's
first.
my point. That's where I'm confused as opposed to, confused as it relates to what's the chicken or egg in this piece, right? So granting the resub, that gets recorded with the land, but then if he still can't get a building permit to confirm for it to be a townhouse or to create the required separation between the units, I don't want it to end up becoming a triggering event that has to be undone if the building permit isn't issued.
He would need that in order to get the resub, to get the permits, because it's a requirement of safety and permits before we would close out the subdivision. So all of that would need to be submitted, and all of this would have to be finalized before he goes back to safety and permits for any sort of permits.
So basically, the resub can't happen until there's confirmation that the townhouse requirements are met.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear on that piece.
Yeah, yeah.
That it's zoning, the zoning verification has to happen first, which is related to the townhouse component as well as building code, before the resub is final.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was hearing it differently a minute ago, so I only confused the audience more. Madam Chair, if there's a motion in order.
Are there any other questions from the board?
No.
And just to confirm, you did say that the applicant, I know he's not present, but he was aware of the follow-up from safety and from the chief building official and what the kind of result of that was.
Yes, after I talk to him, when I go back in the office, either today or tomorrow, my next step in this is to get him connected with Jay DeFore directly, so he can know what this entails, what exactly he has to have an architect provide.
Okay. If there are no other questions, is there a motion?
I can proceed. Madam Chair, in regards to BZA docket number 033-25, my motion is to grant the requested waiver for the proposed lot 16A for Article 13, Section 13.3.8.1, Table 13-2 for lot area. Excuse me, as well as the same for proposed lot 18A. My motion would be for approval, understanding that the 9 criteria have been met based on the communication and conversations that has happened over the last months. But moving for approval, but want to make sure we capture the one proviso as established by safety and permits. Staff, do we need to also add the proviso that was recommended in the report?
It's the same.
Is it the same? Sorry.
So what was recommended by safety and permits wasn't a proviso. So the only proviso is the one that's noted.
Here,
Yes.
this one, but then I understand that it's redundant, but I almost feel it's still necessary to acknowledge what is tied back to the building code and adding that as a proviso, because I think they were saying is that we can't do it after the fact from legal, but it doesn't preclude us from still outlining that proviso, correct?
I don't know if that question was answered.
It wasn't.
No, we don't believe that would preclude you including a proviso, just in case.
Right, okay. So, adding the proviso as noted by staff and provided by safety and permits. That'd be 2.
Can I just clarify, because I'd like to second this, that proviso would essentially be that prior to final approval, he needs to provide evidence of a building permit.
He has to be able to clear the zoning checkup. It would be zoning's verification once it
Okay,
says safety and
so
permits.
prior to the issuance of a building permit, he'll obtain approval from the zoning.
Well, it wouldn't be I'm sorry, go ahead, Emily.
The building permit, it would be the resub. It's tied to having this done before the resub can be approved.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
All right, a second.
With regards to BZA docket 033-25, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Richards to grant the requested waivers of Article 13, Section 13.3.8.1, Table 13.2, lot area for proposed lots 18A and 16A, finding that the 9 criteria have been met and adopting commentary and submissions from the previous board meetings for satisfaction that the 9 criteria have been met and subject to 2 provisos. Roll call vote, Todd James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
The next item on the docket is BZA 047-25 for the property at 1020 Forstall. This request is for variances from the provisions of Article 11, Section 11.3A1, Table 11-2A, Article 22, Section 22, 8A, 2BII, and Article 23, Section 23.8 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit an addition to an existing place of worship resulting in insufficient permeable open space excessive impervious surface in the front yard, parking between the front facade and the front property line, and insufficient buffer yard. Staff requested additional information from the applicant, and at this time, we have not received sufficient information to complete a proper review. Therefore, staff is recommending a 30-day deferral.
Thank you. Is the applicant present for BZA docket 047-25? Is there anyone here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 047-25? Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board? Just a quick question to staff. I know you indicated that you had not received any information. Has there been any communication with the applicant
Yes.
to know that you'll get it in enough time to review for the next meeting?
So we have reached out to the applicant. I just have not heard back from him, so I don't know.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
No, if a motion's in order?
Yep, proceed.
Right, regarding docket BZA 047-25, I move to defer the matter for 30 days.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 047-25, it's been moved by Commissioner Richards, second by Commissioner Eggins, to defer the item 30 days. Roll call vote, Todd James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item?
We will now begin with new business for variances. The next item on the docket is BZA 050-25.
The next item is BZA docket 050-25 for a property located at 8501 Hickory Street. This request is for variances from the provisions of Article 18, Section 18.30.b.4, and Article 22, Section 22.11.b.1 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit the construction of a single-family dwelling with more than 2 full and 1/2 total number of bathrooms and more than 1 curb cut. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story, 3-bedroom, and 3-bathroom single-family dwelling with 3 curb cuts. Thus, the applicant would need a waiver for 2 curb cuts and a 1/2 bathroom, respectively. The subject property is located within the University Area Off-Street Parking Overlay District, or UAP. In summary, regarding both the number of bathrooms and number of curb cuts, the request does not meet all standards for approval. A literal interpretation of the UAP's regulations, as well as curb cut limitations, would not deprive the applicant of the ability to develop the property in a manner similar to other properties in the surrounding area, particularly because the subject site is not at a disadvantage. Of the 26 single-family properties surveyed, 42%, or 11 properties, are compliant with 1 curb cut, while 8%, or 2 properties, are not compliant with a number of curb cuts. Therefore, the applicant would not be deprived of the 1 curb cut requirement as other similarly situated single-family properties in the surrounding area. Further, of the 4 identified permits issued under the current UAP regulations, all complied with the bathroom requirement. Based on this report, staff recommends denial and believes that the requested variance of Article 22, Section 22.11.b.1, curb cuts, fails to meet criteria 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 of their standards for variances of Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, and that 1, there are no special conditions that are peculiar to the land or structure. 2, literal interpretation of the ordinance would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the district. 4, the variance will confer on the applicant special privilege. 5, the variance will alter the essential character of the locality. 6, strict adherence would not result in a demonstrable hardship. 7, the request is primarily for the convenience or profit of the owner or other interested party. 8, the variance will be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to other property. 9, the variance will impair the adequate supply of light, or air to adjacent property, increase street congestion, increase danger of fire, or endanger public safety. Additionally, based on the report, staff believes that the requested variance of Article 18, Section 18.30.b.4, University Area Off-Street Parking Overlay District bathrooms fails to meet criteria 1, 2, 6, and 7 of the standards of variances for Article 4, Section 4.6.f of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, and that 1, there's no special conditions that are peculiar to the land or structure. 2, literal interpretation of the ordinance would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the district. 6, strict adherence would not result in demonstrable hardship. And 7, the request is primarily for the convenience or profit of the owner or other interested party. However, should the board find that the request meets all 9 approval standards of the variances of Article 4, Section 4.6.f, staff recommends 2 provisos.
Is the applicant present for BZA docket 050-25? Yes. You could come up, please.
Hi, my name is Diane Stengel. I live at 8511 Hickory Street. I'm one of the applicants. We've lived in the neighborhood for 12 years now. We're finding that our house is a little small and wanted to get a bigger one, and we're fortunate enough to stay in the neighborhood and just live next door. We do live in the University Off-Street Parking Overlay District, and our contractor was told that we need 4 curb cuts in order to meet that statute, which is why we're asking for the variance. We should note that we do have a curb cut already on Hickory Street, an existing one. On Joliet Street, there is no curb. I believe there are some historical driveway areas similar to what we are requesting. In regards to the bathroom, our plan was to have 2 bathrooms upstairs, one off of the master bedroom, one for the other bedroom and office area. We do have a bathroom downstairs that we would like to have a full bathroom. We're hoping to live in this house forever, to age there, and because of that, we would like the option of being able to have someone live downstairs, able to take a shower without having to go up the stairs. One other note, we do fully intend to apply for the housing, thank you, the homestead exemption. We currently have it on our current house, and we hope to move it to the new house. So we have no intention of renting it out. It's just for us.
Is that the end of your comment?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 050-25 that wishes to speak? If you could come up, please. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
Yes, question for the applicant. So do you want, maybe other board members are a little confused because and I think I might understand how you've gotten here, but do you want the 3 curb cuts, or you were just told you need the 3 curb cuts?
A little of both. The new house does have a garage on Cone Street, or on Joliet Street, that we would like a driveway to there. And besides that, the curb cut on Hickory would be convenient so that we can park all of our cars off street and leave parking available for others. But primarily, we were told that we needed to get this variance in order to progress with the house construction.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the same question because I was just trying to understand. I don't know that any of the response that was submitted really addressed the curb cuts. And looking at the development, it looks like there's 3 different parking areas on the site. So I was just trying to understand the necessity for 3 parking locations, if I'm looking at it correct. The garage and then 2 additional parking locations.
And again, we put those in because we were told that we needed 4 spots because there are 4 rooms that could be considered a bedroom. 2 of them could fit in the garage. We needed the other 2 to meet that requirement. Ironically, once we get the homestead exemption, that would automatically get waived, but we can't get the home extension. Oh, no, sorry. The bathroom, sorry, never mind. misunderstanding. But yes, primarily it was to meet the needs of the overlay district.
Got it.
My concern is maybe to staff, and it's more about the design of the where the garage is located. And I'm not, I guess I just have a concern about putting a driveway that close to the corner. And I'm not sure what off the top of my head, what the rules are for setback for driveways from a corner. It just feels like it would be better to be towards the back of the property, as the typical pattern is in the area.
My understanding from the contractor is that all of the setbacks and all of those requirements are met, so.
So what he's referring to is not necessarily in setback conditions, it's just in
Just
where the
convenient.
curb cuts are being proposed.
Gotcha.
So has DPW looked at this in terms of approving where the curb cuts are proposed?
Right, so we are waiting on feedback from DPW about that exact question, but also that would be included within the provisos if this was to be approved.
Yeah, but
It
that's,
needs to
be.
again, that's the chicken or egg. I mean, if we sit up here and say that part, then we're granting it to go into a certain location when DPW may come back and reject the location of where the curb cut is proposed because it may be too close to the site triangle at the intersection, because this is a corner lot. So, I mean, hate to drive the ship quickly on this. If y'all are y'all the applicant? Because you stick your hand out.
Yeah.
You have,
Yeah.
you have to come to the
She is
mic.
in support, yep.
My name is Destiny Bowersmith. I'm a resident at 8511 Hickory Street, and I'm the one that's been doing all of the paperwork for this for the past 8 months. So there is no curb on Joliet Street. The sidewalk is flush to the level of the asphalt and the street and pavement. So there's not actually curb cuts involved on the parking on the Joliet Street side of the house. There is one curb cut that exists historically from the house that was previously on the 8505 Hickory lot, since we combined 2 lots to make 8501 Hickory a permanent lot, to make it large enough to build a house.
Okay, so even though a curb does not exist, once you create a driveway condition that encroaches into the public right-of-way, you're creating what is theoretically a curb cut.
Okay.
Okay, so the location of the driveway proper, that's where we're a little concerned in terms of the garage placement, with it being so close to the intersection. Concerned again, all right, y'all are raising hands from the back. If y'all got somebody, clarity on who's running
All
the sh-
3 of us
You
are.
got 3 people, so I got
Yes.
3 people steering the ship on a conversation, all right? So I'm just trying to make sure we're clear on what we got to get done. So again, it's just a question of, and what I understood from staff, DPW has yet to provide comments on it. If DPW was to reject the location of where the driveway is being proposed, I think we would rather have that commentary in place first, because if it changes the floor plan, then you may not need 3 curb cuts, you may come down to 2. We don't know until that piece, it's a chicken or egg of, let's confirm what's really can be approved, so we could really give some level of approval for the number of curb cuts that's actually required.
If I may, council member, I do know that.
Not council member, not elected. Don't put me in that spot, bro. I got a job every day, bro. This
My
is volunteer.
apologies. I do know that the sightline issue that was just briefly mentioned, where you have to have a sightline across the corner, is met by the plans as submitted. That was specifically addressed by both the builder and the surveyor that came out to make sure that the corner of the building itself and the driveway would not impede the view of the approach to the intersection as the law dictates. So I do know
Gotcha.
that specifically.
So what I'm asking for is at least allow DPW to do their review, confirm that it's in that spot, so we can rely on the reviewer as opposed to the assumption.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, typically the garage is at the back of the house and isn't the front facade, right? It's also just a architectural thing. Like, it would be, it's kind of, I mean, if this was an HDLC reviewed project, they probably wouldn't frown. They would frown on it as well, because it's putting the garage at the front. So ideally, from a design standpoint, just aesthetics and sort of the neighborhood thing, which is not what we're reviewing here. But I'm more concerned about the safety at the corner, because we typically don't see this that close, the driveway being that close to the turning radius of the corner.
And kind of going back to the 4 parking spaces, because I know the applicant originally said that they're required to have 4 parking spaces, but in looking at the staff report says that only 1 parking space is required. Is that correct?
One curb cut.
It
is
says in the,
It's two different things.
in number 6, under the demonstrable hardship in the staff report regarding the curb cuts, if the variance is denied, the applicant would not necessarily experience a severe non-financial hardship related to the denial. Only 1 parking space is required in accordance with UAP regulations.
For the single family, yes, for the single family dwelling.
It was staff's understanding that 3 bedrooms were provided. We had not heard until today that one of the other rooms is being counted as a bedroom. So if this is deferred, then we would need to triple check that with the Department of Safety and Permits. But if 3 bedrooms or less are provided, the extra parking space requirement is not triggered under this overlay.
Okay.
If I may again, I believe we read in the University Overlay District wording that it says any room that is a bedroom or could be used as a bedroom. And that's what triggered it, was the office we have, which
Could be used
could
as a
be
bedroom.
used as, we're not intending to use it as a bedroom, however, I believe that's what triggered that. The other, just sort of, I'd like to point out, as my housemate said, we combined Lot 1, Lot 2, and a portion of Lot 3, which had been done before, that was already part of Lot 2. There are 3 driveways there because there were 3 properties there. There would be no physical change to the curb that exists on Hickory, which is actually destroyed right now because of sewer and water work and so forth. But there was a curb cut there. I imagine that when Sewer and Water Board replaces that curb, they will put it back. Along Joliet, there are 2 historic driveways there, which we will remove to make permeable because they're old driveways. But those have been there in the locations noted on the drawing.
Okay, and appreciate it, but again, I think we've now identified 3 items that I think we would prefer for staff to confirm with the review entities and get those things hashed out. I will tell you, traditionally, when we deal with these parking pads that may pre-exist, because there's no building on site, a lot of those conditions would not necessarily considered to be grandfathered because there's no principal use on the site. So what I would recommend at this point is, I think you may need to strongly consider a deferral at this point, just to allow staff time to confirm those pieces, especially the DPW review and confirmation on drum count, so we could understand exactly what waivers we need to address. And that may give you time to look at the plan and confirm driveway location. What you got,
Before we
Jason?
do so, can I just bring up a general point? And I was scanning the university area overlay, a different approach that maybe should or could have been taken, or if we are deferring, is not too late to be taken, is that this board can also waive the parking requirements, if I'm reading the ordinance correctly. In other words, so I'm reading 1830B. Oh my goodness, what a long thing. I'm sorry, I can't see it right
You
now.
opened up Pandora's box, Jason.
Yeah. I shouldn't have started talking. I just feel like, you're asking for these 3 driveways, and if you really don't want them, maybe consider that, because I'm pretty sure we could grant a variance for that.
But it sounds like you want some of the drive, if you do want the driveways or not.
I mean, to be honest, the only driveway we would want would be to the garage. The other
Got it.
2, yeah, we pretty much put in because of the overlay.
And that's the one that we're probably
That's
the most concerned with in terms
Yeah.
of placement.
Right.
So, again, yeah.
But and there could be, I don't know, because the fact that the other 2 were put in, I don't know if any alternative placement of the driveway was considered because those other 2 parking spaces were being counted. So if you don't need those, there may be room, I don't know my line, I'm not an architect. So I don't know if there's a logical alternative placement for the driveway that would be less problematic if you take away the other parking.
Okay. So I would just say is the 14th subparagraph is where we're allowed to make a waiver for the requirements. So you're in front of us for the bathrooms. This is intended to be used as a single-family residence. That doesn't seem like a large hurdle for us to overcome. I think the.
But that would require modifying the application, which goes back to deferring.
Yes, right. I'm just saying, please work really closely with staff, and let's see that when we come back, it's the proposal you would like to see.
Thank you.
For motions in order?
Are there any other questions from the board? I do have one quick question to staff before we consider a motion, just trying to determine, given the detail of what we need to discuss, what would be the appropriate time frame for a deferral request?
I think 30 days would be appropriate.
For motions in order?
Yes, proceed.
Madam Chair, in regards to BZA docket number 050-25, my motion is for a 30-day deferral.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 050-25, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz to defer the item 30 days. Roll call vote, Ty James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins,
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item.
The next item on the agenda is BZA 051-25 for the property at 8400 Chef Mentor.
BZA 05125 is for the property located at 8400 Chef Mentor Highway. This request is for a variance from the provisions of Article 24, Section 24.12.d, Table 24-2, freestanding signs, pole sign height, and freestanding signs, pole sign area to permit the construction of a pole sign with excessive height and excessive area. Article 24 allows a maximum of 20 feet in height. The applicant has provided 35 feet and is requesting a waiver of 15 feet. Article 24 also allows for a maximum of 32 square feet in area. The applicant has provided 202 square feet and is requesting a waiver of approximately 170 feet. Staff believes the requested waivers fails to meet Staff believes the requested waiver of Article 24, Section 24, 24.12.d, Table 24-2, freestanding signs, pole sign area fails to meet criteria 1, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Wow. The requested variance of Article 24, Section 24.12.d, freestanding signs, pole sign height fails to meet criteria 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. With that, staff has recommended denial.
Thank you. Applicant, if you could give your name and address for the record.
My name is Brandon Henry with Affinity Fuels. Address of 701 Porter Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 50. Thank you for everyone's time today. So we kind of got this staff report's conclusion as of Thursday, so excuse some of the less well-rounded response, so to speak. In regards to no special conditions, I'm just going to go off on a certain place. I mean, we have the property was purchased, as you see, a small lot, used to be a former Dollar General. We subsequently purchased the adjacent property, which was owned by the city, and we subdivided it. However, currently as the law is written, we have the same signage rights as if it was just a Dollar General. So the law does not scale with the actual frontage of the property. There's over 430 linear feet of frontage that we have acquired, and we don't get any concession or any consideration for that. So that's one issue we have. Two, we are a Shell branded gas station that's being built as part of the project, not the whole project. And part of it, per our sign manufacturer, that we have specific brand requirements that we have to adhere to. They have their standards, and there's not really much wiggle room around that. They indicate that per the CZO, there's no sign that they have in their library that is compliant with Shell's requirements and what the city wants to achieve. The way it calculates square footage, it does not give any benefit at all to anything other than the frame of the sign. And so at most you could fit up there is the logo. You cannot fit any pricing, which I'm sure as anyone's been to a gas station, typically the prices are listed on the pole. Two, we feel like we have other properties that are industrially zoned that have a higher requirement. Ours is a little bit more, less favorable, so to speak. Also, the adjacent property that's not shown in this was built to the property line, so we have an additional encroachment that limits our visibility and the ability for potential customers to come in and see any signage put up, which kind of hurts.
That's the end of your
monument.
time.
I thought I had 10 minutes.
No, you only have 10 if someone defers their time to you. You have 3 minutes standard.
My apologies.
Okay. Is there anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 051-25? If you could come up, please.
Cage Bloomstein with A1 Signs.
You could go ahead with your comments.
For my time to bring. Okay.
So yeah, thank you. In addition to that, we're not asking for anything that is different from what any other gas station enjoys around the city, whether it be further up the street or on another zoned, similarly zoned property in the industrial zone, so to speak. This special business park zone seems to be more appropriately for something on Lakeshore Drive, where it's just solely a bunch of office buildings, not anything retail or consumer related. So I'm not sure why this specific area is zoned this way, but it is. So again, the project has over 430 linear feet, provides ample space for light and air to adjacent property. We have significant distances from the next property line that would prevent the sign from being overly burdened or overly encroaching on the adjacent property. Again, one of the issues is how the city calculates what is a sign and the space that the sign area is factored in. So that's pretty much my remarks. I wish you would grant this waiver.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 051-25? You're coming up to speak?
Hi, my name is Scott Wolf. I support the project. I don't know if
Provide your address too, please.
Sure, 515 Exposition Boulevard, New Orleans. I have been in the convenience store business for 30 years throughout New Orleans. I've had 10 locations. What Mr. Henry hadn't told you was They are probably investing about $4 million in this project, and they will employ probably 50 New Orleanians. And to deny them the ability to expand the price boards to the street would be detrimental to the project. So I just wanted to offer my support.
Thank you. Anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 051-25? Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
Just a quick comment, and appreciate the gentleman's comments, but just want to make sure we point out one thing. When we're evaluating the waivers, there's 9 criteria that we have to look at. Financial is not one of the hardship that we can look at on a project in any capacity, so just want to make sure we express that point. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was going to ask, just for clarity on which way the sign is oriented. Is it oriented towards Crowder, or is it oriented towards Chef Mentor?
So it is perpendicular to Crowder. So if Chef were to come this way, run parallel with the dais, the sign would face Chef to get both sides of Chef's traffic.
Okay, and I guess,
Fortunately, the picture that the staff selected does not really encompass the whole scope of the project.
Yeah.
I encourage, if you have your computers, to look it up on Google Maps.
I'm looking at the architect's drawings.
Okay.
And there's some nice renderings of like the buildings and stuff, but not of the signs. So I'm just trying to understand what's, where it is in the site and how it's related. I can read it in the plan, but it looks like it's parallel to Chef, right? Is that what I'm reading that correctly?
Perpendicular.
Should be in between like a fountain.
Oh, it's that way.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, all right, I get it, okay. I'm looking at a blue thing and thought that was it, okay.
Oh.
So, all right, so it is perpendicular, okay. And then it's just for Shell and the gas prices and not the other potential, like is somebody come back and say they want to add more signs to it later when they do the other drive-throughs? Or are they gonna have their own signs?
Well, our goal is to consolidate onto just that one sign. That's why we asked for the square footage that we requested. We believe we'll be able to fit the additional operators onto them.
Right. Well, I guess because the graphic that we have in the report is just of the Shell with the money, and the
some of it's
V-Power
just
and the
because
car
it's-
wash, but not like intention to add more signs to it. Because in a way, it's more like, that would be more like a shopping center sign where you have multiple
Yes.
tenants on it.
Yes, this is more of a shopping center than just a single entity.
And I had one other question too. In terms of the signage, I don't know if you may know, or if staff may know, historically when the location was the Dollar General, was there a sign historically there?
Yes, there was. However, it was not of this magnitude. It was, if I'm not mistaken, in regulation.
Okay. And it's no longer there? I'm
Correct.
looking from the pictures, I don't see it.
It's no longer there, but it was also relegated to just that small sliver of land versus not the additional pieces of property that were re-subdivided.
And so if I'm looking at the master plan side of your site, there's additional phases that are to come?
Yes.
Okay, so.
We didn't want a permit for something that wasn't ready yet.
No, I understand
so-
that piece. But I'm curious, staff, what is the current context along Chef for some of these poles? Do they have that, is it more of the taller signs, or is it more monument level signs? Because I know Shell does have signage that fits within the monument sign criteria, because I mean, just saying that, just because the brand has their standards and that's what they want to use, they still, no matter what, when they sign this agreement with you from a franchise standpoint, they still are supposed to observe local codes and standards.
Well, just one second. I agree. However, the letter that I have from the manufacturer is in reference to both the monument and the price sign. That's how restrictive the square footage requirement is. They don't have a single thing in their book that can comply. And as far as a freestanding sign area, per the report on table 1 and 2, Table 2, 15 are non-compliant, only 1 is compliant. As far as height, 10 are compliant, 6 are non-compliant. So we would not be an outlier at all.
So, staff, I'm gonna let them confirm, since I was asking them the question.
My apologies.
Thank you.
So the information that the applicant has stated about the tables is correct. When looking at if there are a majority of monument signs or pole signs, we didn't necessarily look at whether there was more of one or the other. In my opinion, I feel as though there were a few more monument signs than pole standing signs, and the pole standing signs only had one sign, like it was only for one establishment.
Okay.
And another question to staff, kind of getting back to, I think Commissioner Diaz kind of brought this up initially in some of his comments, and hearing the reference to future development on the site. Does that change the signage requirements once you have additional developments on the site?
So it sounds like you got your hand up, Brandon.
Just want to point out, in reference to what was the majority sign heights, Table 3, if we look under here, I think the shortest sign is 10 feet. So again, a monument sign is classified in the CZO as 6 feet tall.
6 feet tall.
And to clarify, staff did not include any monument signs in the analysis.
Okay.
Those are all pole signs.
Okay.
Okay, then another question to the applicant. I'm just trying to count the number of sections in your drafted
Before you
view.
start, can I just get an answer to the question?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was an outstanding question.
Can we repeat the question, please?
I was just trying to understand if the expansion of the site to future development changes the signage requirements, whether it's height or, just thinking about the fact that more businesses may be on that site that will also have signage requests.
No, it will not. The sign requirements are to the zoning area, so it's not attached to the size of the site.
Okay.
So wait, it's not, I thought it was attached to the linear foot of building frontage.
Freestanding signs are not, and only one freestanding sign is permitted per
Per
street
site.
frontage.
Okay.
So this is the one signage opportunity unless you come back to us, basically.
Correct, and that's
Yeah.
why I asked for the taller sign and the larger
Right.
square footage.
And then, so this gets to the question I had previously, is it looks like there's a graphic in the report, or that you provided, that's Shell's standard 9-meter sign, which is like 22, 23 feet. And then your, like drafted elevation of it appears to be the same height. It's got like 5 sections. It doesn't have detail on what goes where. So it looks like this sign is just the Shell sign, that doesn't really have space for expansion, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
It's not up on this. Oh, got it.
So the expansion slots would be below the horizontal?
Those 3 panels, basically?
Correct.
Okay, understood.
So what you have in the cut sheet is still showing some of the standard Shell signage that within those 3 panels?
So it would be like pricing right below, and then the sign about. Do you have a car wash?
There are plans for a car wash.
Okay. So it's either 4 or 5 of those panels.
And that's because, and I'm asking because as you look at it, I just don't see where there could be any additional signs that
So-
could go under. And that's why I'm trying to make sure if there will be future businesses that you want to include on there, I'm just trying to understand how that would
So the way that the sign works, so this, let me back up. So from Federal Heath, they give us the sign, all they can do on this initial design phase is just what Shell is asking. If they want if we want to add on an additional space, there are blank panels that would go underneath the bottommost rung for additional scalability.
Oh, but then, yeah, so then you'd be asking us for more sign area, right?
I believe that we calculated
This is the request. In other words, it's gonna say regular fuel price, diesel fuel price, and then you got
3 panels.
4 panels, maybe one for yourself and maybe 3 others.
So we have the, back up. There are ones for currently the operators that are going to be there. The Sterling Express, which is the convenience store brand, and V-Power is just a slot for what's going to be our food court brand that is in the other part of the building, other part of the property.
I see, okay. So really the only fuel stuff is the cost and the big shell.
Correct.
Okay, understood.
But the sign you're holding up is different from the one that's in the packet. So we're just trying to understand exactly what are we reviewing.
I take it that that's the ask. Can you
Correct.
confirm that that's what you're asking for?
Yes, that's the ask.
Okay. I'll just provide my editorial comment. I mean, there's signs about this size, seem like all up and down. You know, there are multiple gas stations on this street. What I don't have a sense of, and I don't, question to staff, I don't know if you know it, and I apologize if it's in the report, but is 35 feet much taller than some of these other ones? Because like, there's a Wendy's sign attached to a billboard that's really quite high. That's the only thing I don't get a sense of, how tall this thing will ultimately be.
To clarify, you said, are there any signs that are taller than 35 feet?
No, approximately this tall. All right, you have it very clearly indicated in the report. I'm reading the report. You don't need to answer the question. They're kind of capping out at 26.
I was actually just kind of looking kind of to what you were mentioning, Commissioner Richards, just because I know this corridor very well, frequent it quite often as I live on the other end of Crowder, so I can recognize the visibility questions about the signage, because as I'm looking kind of like down Chef, I was just trying to see what similar signs in the area were looking like. And all of them seemed to be even the closest business that I could locate had a sign that was smaller in height and nature to what was being asked. So, I mean, I think unfortunately that is the drawback of that immediate area along Chef, is this visibility piece around signage.
And so I'm gonna come back to my earlier question related to the phasing piece, because you do have, I'm seeing as many as 4 different phases throughout the site, correct?
That's correct.
So as the rest of that site gets developed and you're gonna end up with different tenants on that side, would you not have the opportunity to then have monument-related signs for those tenants that could be separate and apart? So I guess more the question to staff is, are they allowed to have more than one monument sign within this area?
Monument signs are considered a freestanding sign, and since only one freestanding sign is permitted per frontage, they could either have one or the other.
Like only have one shot, so.
Yeah, it is.
It's a 4-acre property.
Yeah, I will
just for
agree. It
scale.
is uncommon to have a gas station in a shopping district. You know, so I'll acknowledge it's an unusual circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but again, that's way more area than 44 square feet. So I think at this point, the only thing we're just hung up on is like you're asking for roughly, you know, something like 8 to 9 more feet than even like the tallest sign that is measured on the corridor.
Well, we may be open to a compromise of reducing the height to 20, but we really want to keep the square footage. The square footage is kind of paramount, so to speak, because of the way the pricing is calculated, as well as the need for additional space for the vendors.
Yeah,
or
certainly.
The
And
sub-tenants.
I think similarly situated businesses have that benefit because there are many signs on this corridor that are over 44 square feet or whatever it is you're granted. Yeah, just the height. So that said, there are several that are a little bit over. So I think, I mean, I hate to make like a snap call here, but it would be possible to give you something a little taller than 20 feet.
Is it possible we can match the 26? 26 at 76 Chef Mentor? That would just put us in line with them. That wouldn't.
Does
exceed
that
them.
give you the height needed for the additional panels?
Yes, I believe it would give us the height for the panels that we need.
I don't object to that.
And I'll just say, I know just generally, and what has been the precedent with the board, usually whenever we make that type of a change, typically we would defer it and allow them to make the modification to the document before we reviewed, so it's not just reviewed on the fly.
I will defer to my fellow commissioner there.
Yeah.
One item on that, I mean, I just want to remind everyone, this is a project that's actively under construction. So
Yeah, but that's usually not a driver on, that's something that, so just being honest with you on projects.
Right.
Get your signage package done when you get your plans developed.
How far away are
deferring
you
it,
from
yeah.
finishing?
We're probably about, say, 30 to 60 days, depending on the weather. I mean, you know, it's just that time of the year for us, and most of the work is like site work and pouring concrete, so that's very weather dependent, so.
Yeah, well, I would say we can do 30-day deferral. If Commissioner James says it's important, I do think it's important to get a revised drawing. So what we're approving for you is the thing that gets built. There are
Great,
no
no problem.
questions. So just to recap where we are, you've presented a lot of evidence, and we're in agreement that the additional sign area is reasonable, and then we would request that you revise the drawings to have a height that's no taller than anybody else's existing sign, 26 feet.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Is a motion in order?
Are there any other questions from the board?
No.
Proceed.
Madam Chair, regards to BZA docket number 051-25, my motion's for a 30-day deferral to allow the applicant time to revise documents and come back with a lesser height sign so that we could confirm that package ahead of a future review.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA
Crickets.
docket 051-25, it has been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Eggins, I heard first, to defer the item 30 days. Roll call vote, Todd James,
Yes.
Tamara Eggins. Yes. Ramiro Diaz,
Yes.
Jason Richards,
Yes.
and Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Just make sure you confer with staff to get clear on when you need to have that submitted, because even though it's 30 days, it'll need to be submitted to staff earlier in order to be considered before the next meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item?
The next item is BZA docket 05225.
BZA 5225 is a request for variances from the provisions of Article 18, Section 1832B4 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to permit the renovation of a single-family dwelling resulting in excessive height at the property located at 80 Audubon Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to renovate the first floor and elevate the existing single-family home. In the HURS district, the maximum allowable height is 35 feet, while the more restrictive University Area Design Overlay District limits building height to 30 feet. The proposed elevation would increase the building height to 42 feet 5 inches, thereby necessitating a waiver for 11 feet 11.5 inches above the overlay district limit. While the site is prone to flooding, flooding is a common and widespread condition in New Orleans, and it must be demonstrated that the flooding at the subject site is significantly more severe than that experienced by similarly situated properties. 80 Audubon has a ground elevation of negative 0.6 feet, while nearby properties on the same side of the street have lower elevations, including negative 1.4 feet. Therefore, no special conditions or circumstances exist that are peculiar to the site. Using the existing base flood elevation of the existing highest top of the curb elevation, negative 2.01 feet, the minimum elevation required is approximately 1 foot of elevation. The construction benchmark is plus 1.16 feet. The proposed first floor set at 4 feet is 2.84 feet in excess of the necessary elevation per building code regulations, which indicates that the necessary building height for flood mitigation is only 33 feet, 2 and 13.32 inches. Based on this report, the staff believes that the requested variance fails to meet criteria 1 and 7 of the standards for variances of Article 4, 6F, in that there are no special conditions peculiar to the land. And 7, the request is primarily for the convenience or profit of the owner. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the requested variance.
Good morning, Board. Zach Smith, 1000 South Norman C. Francis, on behalf of ownership, who is present in the room today. With me, as well as Ms. Amy, is also the architect of record, Charles Neray, in the event there's any questions to kind of back up and support some of the comments that I may make today. As always, we really appreciate the staff's time. We know there was a lot of and very thorough review, and it's always commendable when we have a project that has many complicated features, and we essentially get down to items 1 and number 7, which we respectfully disagree with. As they note, special conditions and circumstances exist that are peculiar to the land. It's noted in the staff report that it must be demonstrated that the flooding at the subject site is significantly more severe. I'm going to talk about it for a quick second, but the owner is going to get into the particulars about how often, how regular, how repeated they are getting water into their homes, and the myriad of ways and reasons and types of investments they've made to do it every possible way other than what you see essentially in front of you now, which is a much more complicated, much more involved engineering intensity than the surrounding neighborhood. The second part is item number 7. The request for the variance is not based primarily upon a desire to serve the convenience or profit. It's essentially for 2 reasons. Number 1, we just talked about in item number 1, which is the continued flooding issues in the property. And the second point is that we have with us, and Mr. Neray can go into it greater, especially if any of the architects with. I have in my hand essentially 3 alternative options. They were not shared with the board in a timely way, so I only have them on paper, and I'm not going to hold them up and violate the rules. But in the event there was a suspension that the board deemed important, the architect, Mr. Neray, can walk you through the various other ways in which they worked on different aesthetics so that it wouldn't destroy some of this proportionality. This is a raised basement home. This is a basement that has been used and has been fully used as living space and enjoyed as living space for decades. And in this particular case, by just simply raising the building but not raising the proportions along with it, we would come up with a very interesting architecture that we believe would actually violate number 8, where it would start to do injury and harm to the neighboring properties by having something that would just look significantly out of place. I do believe I have a couple cards in to give me just a little bit more time, I think, from Ms. Barth and Ms. Galvez. And as I wrap up, the last part in the staff report, in number 7, it does note that the design choices, that increase habitable space and potential property value. The entire ground floor of this building is currently used. This is not a situation of, hey, we want to put the ground floor into use. We want to start using it in some way. So therefore, let's go through this very complicated endeavor to get there. There is no increase in habitable floor area as we relate to, any sort of existing space that's not being utilized in some sort of unusable space. And again, Ms. Amy's going to get up in a second and explain to you how they've been trying to use their home and how they've been unable to use their home repeatedly over years, doing more and more and more, and only failing more and more and more often. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 052-25?
Amy Savoy, 80 Audubon Boulevard. Thank you so much for your time. My husband and I moved into our house in '07. Essentially, our house has always flooded, mostly in the mudroom in the corner, which was towards the front of the house. But obviously, with heavier rains, the water was more. So, of course, over the last several years, the water into the house has gotten worse, despite the upgrade to our street and our drainage system. And now, every time it rains, to some level, there is water. It could be 3 to 6 inches. It could be at random spots. It could be in closets. It could be anywhere. Lost my place. It has become more difficult and almost impossible for us to remove the water. We have added sump pumps. We've added subsurface drainage. But due to the shift in the house, I have to sweep the water to the pumps to get it to go out. We've run out of options other than to raise our home. My husband is going to be 70 next year. I'm going to be 60. So lifting shop vacs and trying to get this water out is almost impossible. If we're out of town, the water sits the entire time we're out of town until the level goes down or we get home and clean it up. It is our intention to live here 20 more years. We love our street, we love our neighbors, and we've pretty much exhausted everything to make this better. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 052-25? Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
Question for the applicant or the applicant's architect would be, we can see, like, noted on the comments about flooding. I'd like to, if somebody could just walk us through a couple questions I have about the proposal, which would just be that the floor to floor was 9 feet from the raised basement to the second floor. It's being changed to 12. And then the height above grade is 4, whereas code would maybe require 3. And those don't materially affect the need for the variance, because obviously just the fact of raising this is pushing it into the need for a variance, but I'd appreciate if you could provide some commentary there.
Charles Nere, 1200 Annunciation Street. Your question was what the proposed heights are? That's correct?
Well, I'm clear on what they are. Just can you tell us why you're adding 3 feet to the first floor and exceeding, adding, we understand you're gonna need to lift the ground floor. You're lifting it 4, perhaps you could do less. Also, the first floor is being raised at the same time.
So the existing first floor is actually below grade by about a foot. So we would raise the foot to get to grade. And then the benchmark had a little bit of inaccuracies on existing grade. They actually took the adjacent grade to a berm that was elevated. Adjacent grade is actually negative 1.84, which is more at the street level, not at the top of the berm. So we'd go 1 foot to get to grade, and then the request is 4 feet to get to finished floor, which would be 1 feet above construction benchmark.
And then for the height of the, that first floor, it's really about proportion for the home. We're trying to be consistent with what a two-story home would look like, and so that's why we're asking.
To clarify, are you taking what's currently your principal floor and lowering it, and then adding another floor on top?
No, the current principal floor is going up, and a floor is being created below it.
Below it,
Existing floor is already there, but it's being raising in height.
But aesthetically, like from the outside, it kind of looks like you're keeping that current, I'm sorry, I'm looking at this because it's more helpful than the
Yeah, that
drawings in a
goes
way.
up in the proposed. That goes up.
That goes up.
Yeah.
So you're just lifting the whole thing and adding a new floor in between. Yeah, okay. And removing the basement. What was, just to clarify, well,
The basement's being elevated. So,
Yeah.
so it was, originally constructed as a raised basement, but it has, in
But
all
it-
modern times, been used.
but it's not going
as-
to be habitable anymore, right? It's just going to be a crawl
it is.
space.
Well, think of what they're trying to say is basement becomes, let's call the basement the first floor, because that's what it is. So the first floor is getting raised effectively.
Yeah, I guess, but
Yeah.
I mean, structurally, it's not, is it going to be the exact same? You're
Oh, it'll
you're
be
not
all new.
lifting the floor, you're building a new floor in
Brand
there
new.
that's above.
Yeah, there'll be a crawl space of.
Yeah, crawl
Yeah.
space. and-
The 4 feet.
Yeah, because it's basic, I mean, they made what was likely a uninhabited space habitable at some point in the history of this building. Because when I look at the architecture and the facade and what the history is, it looks like it was originally some sort of crawl space or storage underneath the building, and it's been made habitable in sometime in the past, which doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to make that point. So then the other question you guys were mentioning about the height adjacent grade, is it measured at the curb, or is it measured, where is it? Because I understand your point about the berm. I mean, there's quite a significant berm
Yeah.
at the front of the building that makes it look shorter than it really is.
Yeah, and that's where they took that, on the benchmark, they show front right, front left. That's where they took it, it was at the top of the berm, but the driveway and what the actual grade is negative 1.84.
Is that the curb at the front of the building, or is that?
That's basically at the property line at the front, which is, it's similar to the curb height.
Yeah, I was just curious because we get this often about what is exactly highest adjacent grade, and then of what you're measuring your height against.
Yeah, we have two kind of wrinkles in the fact that the existing lowest level is obviously below quote-unquote grade. We have, since they've bermed these properties up on Audubon, and I think sometimes on Newcomb, you end up with a grade that is not what we're used to in New Orleans, obviously, where it's more flat, where there's a gradual. So depending on who shot the survey and exactly where they decide to pull. But you had one particular question of what was the curb that they've chosen in front, and the curb elevation is negative 2.01.
Okay.
That was a hard question I wanted to make sure you got answered. And that should be on one of the pages under item number 7 in the report. But negative 2.01 feet in ABD.
So I'm gonna just come back to an earlier question that Commissioner Richards asked related to the overall ceiling height of the now elevated basement floor. Well, the proposed, well, we're calling it the first floor, I'm just trying to, because when we start saying, I think it's causing more confusion that people are receiving, is that you're adding a floor in the mix, when you're not. You're elevating the basement to become the theoretic new first floor, right? But within the plan, you're not preserving the existing height of that basement. So you're now increasing it more. All right,
Correct.
so, and what is that additional height that is being increased?
The height of that is roughly proposed at 5 feet, 4 feet for the ceiling height and 1 foot for ductwork. That's the current ask. So 5 feet for the raise and 5 feet for the ceiling height and ductwork.
Yeah, and the reason why I was trying to be particular about the upper floors is because those are staying the same as what they
Correct.
are now.
That's right,
So you're just,
yeah.
you're inserting in the middle of, the wedding, another layer cake that's new.
Yeah, it would create this much shallower lowest floor.
Shallow or taller?
As a person who's
Who's short?
Yeah, there we go.
Come on, Zach, I'm ready, come on.
Vertically challenged.
Thank you.
We try to keep our proportions right.
So you mentioned earlier that you didn't have time to provide other options. So, Charles, I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on those alternates?
Yeah, yeah. So we have, we got three other options essentially that we've kind of proposed or that we were looking at. So Plan A is what's the current ask, which is, overall building height of roughly 42 feet. We got a Plan B that would reduce the overall building height by 18 inches. We do this by reducing the ceiling height on the first floor by 6 inches and then eliminating the 1 foot crawl space or duct space in the living area. So we get 6 inches in a reduction in ceiling height and then a foot by removing ductwork in the main living space. We kind of sidewall it essentially. So that proposed building height would be 40 foot and a half an inch. Plan C would be those, everything in Plan B. And then in addition, we would reduce the building to the construction benchmark. So that would be a foot lower. So instead of 4 feet above grade, we'd be 3 feet above grade. And then we'd get the 18 inches on the other options. So we'd reduce it overall to 39 foot 6 inches and 6.5 inches. And then we do have an option D, which architecturally we don't agree with, but we wanted to put it out there. And this option, essentially, the third floor currently has the slope ceiling. We would completely remove that slope roof and just come with a low sloping roof at the existing ceiling framing. And that option with the others would reduce the overall height to 36 foot 7.5 inches, which is a 5 foot 5 inch reduction of the current ask.
But still requires a variance, basically, because you're over the 30 feet.
Yeah, because we're in the overlay, which is a 30, and then existing, we're above it anyway. We're at 32 existing. So.
So another piece to this is looking at what's the historic scale of the existing first floor, which is, if I'm reading this correctly, floor to floor is 11 foot 8.
That's
for the
right.
First floor reference.
Correct,
But
yes.
we're now creating a 14-foot floor to floor on the first floor. In your option, in this option.
In
A.
option A, it would be 12 feet clear, and then 1 foot for ductwork, 1 foot for joists. So yes, you're right, 14 foot floor to floor.
Yeah, we're not an architectural review board. I think all the comments that we're getting at is to really satisfy 7, we want to make sure that the ask is the most appropriate or judicious ask without, obviously compromising the scale of the building. Question to you is, I know that Uptown is partial control. Does this triggering a full HDLC review because of the raise?
Not full. We went before the partial control board for the first floor being eliminated. That request was denied, but we're currently appealing it.
Oh, they straight up denied this? The HDLC did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you, just one more elevation to throw in there, sorry. What is the BFE or ABFE required?
18?
Yeah, so that's at 1.16 NAVD.
Yeah.
That's what construction benchmark means? That's not ABFE, that's.
It's ABFE. Yeah.
Okay.
But 3 foot above the curb would be.
3 feet above the curb, yeah.
The same.
And then, but that's the I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I wasn't sure what the FEMA requirement was for the area, is it?
So the 3 foot for the ABFE would be plus 0.99, as you got the negative 2.01. So then on the adding 3 to that, you get to positive 0.99. So I know they have on the benchmark the plus 1.14, but that's obviously just where they hit their nail at. So, but very close to that would be the plus 0.99, would be the actual 3 foot requirement from the city.
So the 4 foot lift is not,
Yes.
it's not because of the BFE?
In this particular case, again, due to the extent, if Miss Amy got back up, she would explain that this is the amount of flooding that they've received through almost 20 years ago, and what they've then experienced in this house. It is their wish from a preservation of this building, that this be that they can live in this building and not think about it flooding.
I won't argue with that
Yeah.
argument personally,
Yeah.
because I understand raising
Yeah.
up something 4 feet.
It
But
was
I'm
their
trying,
desire to
I'm
go
trying to
up.
get to a number where we're saying, where's the, you know, kind of requirement from FEMA versus, you know, adding up on top of that.
The city
another 30
requirement
feet.
to be compliant with their ABFE rules that they, you know, voluntarily adopted for FEMA would be the plus 0.99.
Okay, thanks.
So I'll just call it a foot.
Any other questions from the board? Clear as mud?
Yeah, it's not a question, but it's a statement. I mean, the other thing that you guys had going for you in that current design was that mound in front and what that looks like aesthetically to cut down the height of the building. I don't know if you're planning to put that back or if it's not really showing in the drawings.
And
Yeah,
actually,
the
so,
landscaping sort of gets kind of a raised planter condition, and it makes the building not. It looks like a one-story mass with a thing
Yeah,
on top
that's
of it.
that's what-
And now we're getting a two-story mass with
That's
a
what
thing on top
confused me
plus
as
a
I was
4-foot
looking.
lift.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I just keep referring back to, for A301, which shows the building section. And that's where my initial questions were really kind of coming from about general scale and understanding floor-to-floor height. So when I'm seeing this and seeing that the existing historic scale on what was the first floor is only 11'8" from floor to floor, we're coming in with a 14-foot floor-to-floor requirement, which seems to be slightly out of scale with what the existing building scale is right now, okay?
Yeah.
So that's a part one. Part two is when we get into the base flood elevation, it's noted inside that sketch where it shows the construction benchmark. Noted as 1.16, and then the finished floor is roughly
2 feet.
2 foot, 2'2" above that point. So I'm kind of curious as to why can't we look at something that's a little bit more mitigated, bring that floor plan, not necessarily put the rafters inside of below the BFE per se, right? But why not also look at how to lower that ceiling height on the first floor potentially as an alternate means to mitigation instead of talking about modifying the primary structure of what was the first and second floor? Because your option 3, talking about redoing the third floor, that's kind of like, that's a reach versus, yes. Yeah, it's like, I see so much room inside the first floor, you could shave easily 18 inches to 2 feet off the first floor, come back into something that's in keeping with the existing scale of how the existing building looks, and that way we're not dealing with such a push.
Can I clarify one point?
Please.
The main living space on that proposed second floor, the ceiling height is 11'8" clear. I know on the diagram there, it shows 11'8" floor to floor. The main living space is kind of bumped up from the others. So we're trying to match that
And that's the
height.
thing, but I have to
Yeah.
rely on what you provide as your drawing, so if you're now telling me it's 11'8" clear, I'm not getting a correct representation of what the actual plan condition is.
Correct.
And I'm trying to use that as a basis to understand how to come up with something that is a little bit more formidable as something to grant for height.
Yeah, the dimension strings on that section, sorry, a little confusing, because I'm not sure if I'm looking at floor to, yeah, it's hard to, I
All
just
over
had,
the
I had
place.
to add them all, I just took the total on the left and subtracted the lift. Try to come up with the height of the building.
So what may I suggest? Because we love deferrals today.
Yeah.
Looking at this piece, confirming what is that first floor height, and if you're gonna have an option B and C as you guys even recommended today, I'm gonna come back with a 1 prime. Might as well just keep throwing them in. And look at what we could do to help mitigate what is the requested height on the first floor, as well as where the BFE is being established for the first floor, and see if that's a way to help get this down a little bit more. I do see what you have in the street elevation reference. Your the midline of your roof would fall almost in alignment with the top of roof next door, but if you're telling me that these heights are a little bit, aren't necessarily true, I'd rather get this section detail confirmed and come back with something that may help to offset where this is falling.
I'd actually like to see a proposed height of the building relative
Correct.
to the, I mean, I see it for 2 houses there, but the context of the street, if you drive down a little further, it might be nice.
It's important.
It's important here because of the IZD, I think, and the fact that, or the university, whatever it's called, the university overlay, that, you know, that's making a very low height because of the neighborhood context that's much bigger than just this one street. And given that's the boulevard and there's bigger houses, it'd be good to get that context a little wider.
Understood. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Madam Chair, is a motion in order?
Are there any other questions from the board?
No, can I just summarize what I understand that we've talked about is basically there will, a waiver is needed, and we're asking the applicant to come up with something that's a little more minimal. Yeah. Okay.
So kind of modifying the request a little bit.
We really appreciate that, Board.
If there are no more questions, proceed with your motion.
Just question, Charles, do you think 30 days is enough to work through the mod? Okay. Madam Chair, in regards to BZA docket number 052-25, my motion's for a 30-day deferral.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 052-25, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz, to defer the matter 30 days. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Tamara Eggins.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Jason Richards.
Yes.
And Candace Forrest, yes. 5 yeas, no nays, the motion carries. Next item?
The next item is BZA docket 05325.
Good morning. BZA docket 053-25 is a after-the-fact request for a non-compliant fence constructed in the front yard of the subject property located at 7126 Regent Street. According to Article 21, Section 21.6.N.1.A of the CZO, front yard fences are required to be at least 50% open. The fence in question includes an opaque section along Regent Street which does not meet that requirement. The subject property is a corner lot with frontage on both Regent Street and New Orleans Hammond Highway. And while the portion of the fence along New Orleans Hammond Highway is compliant, the section facing Regent is solid and opaque. Staff conducted an analysis using Google Street View of the 32 nearby properties and found that only 3 had front yard fences, 2 of which were opaque and 1 was open. Majority of the surrounding properties had no front yard fencing at all, and all prior requests for similar variances in the area have been withdrawn. In evaluating the requests against the 9 standards for granting a variance, staff found that the application fails to meet criterion 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The request appears to be based on personal preference as a condition of the property being on a corner lot, and subsequently the home's orientation does not constitute a physical hardship, as the applicant could still construct a fence with 50% openness. Granting this would be a special privilege that would alter the character of the neighborhood, as this would be the only fully closed front yard fence of its kind in the immediate vicinity. As such, staff recommends denial of this variance. However, should the board determine that the application does meet all 9 standards, the request would be subject to 2 provisos listed in the staff report.
If you could give your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Lon Dang. My address is 202 Evangeline Drive. I am the daughter-in-law of Peter and Grace Wu, and I'm here today because I've witnessed the firsthand how the situation has affected them. We want to emphasize that the city has already, before we built the fence, the city gave us verbal permission to build this fence. And now, after it's being built, the city is asking us to take it, that it violates ordinance. This doesn't seem fair or right. Also, if you the comparison that the staffer used respectfully was not a comparison of like similar lots. They were comparing apples to oranges because this is the only house on this specific street with special barriers due to the intersection location. A lot of the other houses that were being compared to were duplexes, condos. They weren't single-family homes, all of them. And they're not on this type of intersection with this type of lot design. First off, I wanted to say Grace and Peter took steps prior to building their fence to abide by all of the city's ordinances. They went to City Hall in March of 2022 to ask what type of permit they needed and what regulations they needed to follow due to their lot location. The official at City Hall told them No permit was needed since they live in Lakeview, saying as long as their fence was under 8 feet tall, they were free to build it however they wanted along New Orleans-Hammond Highway as they were on a corner lot. They returned to City Hall a second time on May 14th, 2024, after they had already decided what design of fence they wanted to build and where they wanted to put their fence. They went to the officials with all of this information, and again, the official said, I already told you, you know, I'm telling you again, you don't need a permit, you can build the fence there. In addition to that, my parents have site plans that the builder submitted. We bought it from a builder, but it was already built, so everything was pre-existing before we built it. But the site plan, if you look, I think it's in your document, but I have it as well. Can I show it to you guys?
We would have to, you can show it visually, but
Okay.
otherwise we would have to suspend the rules to actually take it.
Okay, yeah, I'll just show it. I hope it's big enough, but you can see this is the builder site plan, and if you look along this wall, this was approved by the city, and it shows a 6-foot tall brick and CBU fence that's solid all along this wall and this wall. And the reason why the builder designed it like that is because if you look at the unique location of the house, there's only 2 side lots. There's not a true backyard. And so in Lakeview, in single-family homes, every home has a private space. Like the space is for your kids to play, for whatever you want, private green space. Well, so there's only 2 options for green space. And the option on the right, which is facing the Regent Street side, that one has to be used for parking because the city's already said, and when we bought the house, a realtor said, you're not really permitted to put parking on the other side, which is the side of the fence, because of the close proximity to the intersection, and it'd be dangerous. So that permit would be really, really difficult to get. And so that's why the driveway's on this side, and right now there's only a 1-spot driveway. Without 1-spot driveway, that's not enough for contractors and guests because it's single. And usually in Lakeview or other single-family homes, they have like a driveway that fits 2 cars, either front to front or side to side.
That's the end of your time.
Okay, no problem. They were gonna.
Do they want to defer? Okay.
Yeah. So that's the other reason why the green space and the fence-in space has to be there, and that's the backyard. And then in terms of criteria 1, whereas most New Orleans houses demand that there's a front and a back, this corner lot is special in that there's 2 frontages essentially, and then one of the frontages is along New Orleans-Hammond Highway, and it's so close to that intersection of a major intersection that you can't put a driveway there, so it forces, basically the unique location and design of this lot forces us to put the green space there, if that makes sense. And it just would take away a privilege or amenity to us that's shared by all other homeowners in Lakeview. And then going on to the other criteria, if you look at the other houses, there are other houses with very similar layouts, and they all have fences along the corner. And I will show you. This is actually in Lakeview. And if you look, these 2 houses are on a corner lot, and instead of, like most houses architecturally are narrow in the front and wide in the back, like they're deeper than they are wide, if that makes sense. And these 2 houses are similarly built to us where the frontage is actually wider, which is unique to Lakeview. And their house is very unique because it's Spanish architectural style. But anyways, if you look at these 2 houses, they both have fences enveloping the whole side on the corner. So ours is not the only case of that fence. And then right down the street, which is very walkable to them, there's actually a lot with a fence. I'm sorry, this one right here, it's on West End Boulevard, but if you can see, all of these houses are facing this way. So the lot frontages are this way. But this lot has a fence that comes right up to the proper line that envelops the whole frontage. So we're not the only exception. And this is within walking distance. The other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to show you guys pictures of houses in Lakeview that have the same, there's a house and there's a whole side lot that is the front of the house. And then I have another one that's very similar to theirs in Lakeview. And the main thing is they've been told by the city, they have a site permit that was approved by the city that says they can have a fence along that side, that solid phase. They built it, and now they're telling us it's against the ordinance. The other thing I wanted to say is in this location, it's very diverse location. So for the other criteria, criteria 4 and 5, if you look at this street, their house is right here, and if you look directly across from their street, like right here, you can see that this area is all fenced off with solid fencing. These houses are also solid fencing, so it doesn't take away or distract from the neighborhood. And then the other thing is their closest neighbors, so their neighbors most adjacent to them, have signed statements today saying that they approve of a closed-off fence. So that's number 5. Number 6, there's a lot of hardship in this. We already built this fence with what we thought was the blessing of the city. We are not able to tear it down and build a new one. And by not having an enclosed yard, we are experiencing significant hardship without the same amenities of other families in the neighborhood. We initially tried complying. That's why the fence is shown like that, because we tried complying with the neighborhood by taking every other fence board away. And then when we took every fence board away, this is built up Trex overlapping design. And so when we took every fence board away, it started warping and it started falling apart. So that's not a possibility for us to do. And then the other part is that the posts are built from cement and they're dug 4 feet underground. So I don't know how possible it would be even to get the fence off and redo everything. I think, it just, we can't do that. And then by not having a fence, you're
That's
taking
the
away
end of your time.
amenities. Okay, all right.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in support of the applicant for BZA docket 053-25?
I was gonna,
Right. Anyone else here that wishes to speak?
so we can't give you guys the neighbor signatures?
We would have to suspend the rules to accept anything that's not already in our packet.
Okay.
Anyone here in opposition? Any questions from the board?
Quick question. So to staff, trying to understand the open requirement, is it for the full length of the fence or is it for the first 14 feet?
I believe it's the entirety of the fence has to be 50% open.
Okay. So any consideration to, one, so I do understand this intersection. I come through here quite a bit. I ride in front their door and turn on Old Hammond
Yeah.
going towards the Lake Trail often.
Yeah.
This is one of those unique intersections because this is not two-way traffic on that side of the street. It is one-way traffic going towards Metairie. And if there's any traffic coming from the opposite direction, it's on the other side of that median. So the clear line of sight for someone, let's say, trying to navigate that turn with a vehicle is way outside. This fence doesn't fall inside. You looked at taking out every other board, but apparently because it's not part of that system, it does modify how it's gonna perform. So would staff look at this from the orientation is this full stretch of this block for Old Hammond Highway, even though that's not the address of the property. All of those homes are they're all townhomes or doubles, all the way pretty much across that stretch, except for a handful as you get close towards the canal, 17th Street Canal. Because of that, now this actually does function as their rear yard, so they do not necessarily get the same function that everybody else along that stretch actually can have and enjoy. But is there any consideration around looking at this exclusively through the first 14 feet run of fence? Because that is at least what you would look at from a theoretical site triangle coming off of, what's the front street again? Regent,
Yeah.
turning onto Old Hammond.
So could you clarify? I'm sorry.
I
like,
talk fast, so look, dude, you're gonna get used to me.
So essentially, you're asking staff to reconsider sort of the position of where the necessary
And looking at
hardship.
this, yeah, through the hardship piece, I mean, again, this is unique because it's not one of the interior Lakeview streets where you have two-way traffic moving and you want to preserve some line of sight as vehicles are turning a corner. This is Old Hammond Highway, right?
Yeah.
So this side of the property does become their theoretical side yard or backyard, from a lack of zoning terminology. And looking at this exclusively through the point of applying the 50% just within the first stretch, that would someone would look at from clear line of sight, the first 14 feet of the fence, or at least within the first 14 feet within the property, and where that 50% would come into play. Is there any ability to look at it through that lens?
I'd have to defer to Emily. I would assume that's essentially altering the request that would be in front of us.
Trying to help them
No,
identify
I
middle
understand.
ground as open versus closed. Alternative compliance, instead of it being completely open, if there's some way to look at it through what would traditionally be the line of, the sight triangle that's required when someone's looking through that intersection. Usually I know it's the first 14 feet from the property line back into that fence line. That being a 50% open at that plane as opposed to 100% of the fence.
I would say that the board, if you believe the 9 criteria are met with that in mind, there could be a modified approval on your part. In order for staff to look at it, the request again, we would have to defer it.
Okay.
Well, and I guess another way to look at this is the ordinance is whether it's in the front yard or the backyard, right? So it's, yeah.
And that was the position that staff had taken when it made the denial request, because I understand the situation of how the property is oriented, but we have to specifically look at it as if it were the front yard. That's what the waiver request is for.
What's tricky is it doesn't, unless I'm not reading this right, it doesn't say anything about corner sites exactly in the definition.
It doesn't. And it's fallen
But basically
primarily because the fence is along that short side on Old Hammond Highway. That's theoretically their front yard.
Yeah, by strict reading of the zoning ordinance, but obviously their front is on Regent Street.
Regent.
Mhm.
Because it's a corner, both front on the.
On both streets.
Right, and then there's the practical, like, just constructibility of the fence, and I understand it's causing, you can't just take the panels out.
We tried,
Without
yeah.
adding.
Without warping.
Is there a way to add structure behind it? Did you guys talk to the fence people?
We did. I mean, so when I talked to the fence people, they said, you know, we had a lot of quotes. No one's ever seen anything like this. No one's ever seen this denied. All of the fence people said this is just it's just a unique circumstance, which is criteria number 1. It's like extremely unique that none of the fence people foresaw it. And the other thing is we did look at the safety of the area, like you were saying, and the setbacks and things like that, and making sure, and that's why we had kind of looked from our neighbor's perspective and made sure that the turns and everything were safe, and that's why we set the fence as is, because if you can see, it doesn't really go to our property line, which, you know, from our perspective, we would like more yard, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the neighborhood and the neighbors remain safe.
Let me ask you another approach
Yeah.
on this. Looking at the corner, the extreme corner of the two
Yes.
panels, is there a way to maybe look at modifying just that section and instead of running true to the corner?
Yeah, well, what I don't understand is why is there a permit that's filed with the city that's been approved for a fence along that line if it's the front yard and we can't have closed front yards?
So I'm gonna come back to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
It was something that was done verbally, which we
No,
can't.
I'm saying the permit, the site plan.
Site plan, but it's, I mean, it's a little different design. It looks like it's.
It's different, but there's still a fence there and it's still against city ordinances, but they still approved it.
And it was around the pool, it looked like there's a.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a pool there, you have to have a fence there, and that's the only place to put a pool. But at the
Correct.
same time, it's still a fence there. So if it's approved for that plan, I don't understand like why ours doesn't, like, it's still a site plan.
It's not the fence. It's
Right.
not the fence
It's
being
not the
challenged.
fence.
It's just the context of how it's built. Okay,
Correct.
so.
You can have
again,
a fence, it's the closing of it's the fence being
Sure, but
completely
that
opaque
fence
is the
is
difference.
But that fence is a closed fence. In the site plan, you can see it says 6-foot CBU fence, completely closed with brick on both sides, flat face brick. It's not an open fence. So if that's approved by the city already and we have that, I just don't understand how we are in violation. And I just don't think it's fair for my parents, like they spent $16,000 on this Trex fence for their grandchildren to play in. You know, there's accidents along that highway, debris have been splashed into their yard. And like, you know, it's just not safe without a closed fence for the grandchildren to play in.
So not dismissing any of those pieces,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
okay? I'm just trying to
Okay, I'm
help
sorry.
work within the limits of
Thank
what we're
you.
hearing if I'm middle ground, okay?
Yeah, thank
So
you.
I'm trying to look at two alternative options. One, I do agree, and this is just Todd speaking for Todd, not for the board.
Okay.
I do agree in some contexts as it pertains to where a portion of the fence should still be able to be closed off. What again I'm looking at is the intent of how the safety, the line of sight, and the reason why that 50% the open requirement exists within the ordinance is about line of sight. So it's about someone who may be walking on Regent Street and turning around the corner to Old Hammond Highway. It's trying to avoid blind sight conditions. That's the only purpose of that requirement. I'm trying to look at it through what is that sight line. So if there's an alternative where just the first two panels at the corner can remain open in some capacity, but then close off the remaining piece because it does not impact safety line of sight on the corner. Okay, so I'm trying to find that middle ground to see if that's the way, and if I'm understanding correctly from Emily, it's almost just, it would almost need to just be a modified approval and limiting it to that corner condition. Yeah, so I mean, if we look at that as an alternative, yes, it would require for you to still have to modify the fence to some capacity. What I would strongly recommend, I know if it's a truck-style system, look to see if there's something of a much more rigid vertical plank that you could use inside that corner. It may be a wood, it may be something else. And work with one of the fence contractors to see what they could do in place of the existing material that they have on the vertical planks. And that way it's 50% just at those first two panels. And that way you could put everything back in place and it performs the way it was intended.
Yeah, and just to clarify with staff, is it 50% of the whole fence, or is it
So,
50% of each
I
square
mean,
foot of the fence?
I'm trying to clarify as well. Is it just the corner that needs to be 50% then, or is it the whole New Orleans Hammond Highway?
What Todd is just thinking
Sure.
as a potential solution is 50% at those two end panels,
Okay.
okay? And that's it. But again, that's just me speaking. I can't speak for everybody else.
And I was going to argue that, ask the question, is it 50% of the whole fence, or is it 50% of each square foot of the fence?
So what he's referencing is just those
I
two-
understand. I'm asking
no,
for
he's-
clarification
yeah,
of how
from
the
the
fence is
staff.
put together. Is the regulation that you need 50% openness, or is it that 50% of the fence needs to be open? Because if you're look at the whole width of the fence and you say half of the fence
Follow
can
you.
be metal wire
Yeah.
and the rest of it is Trex, or is it that the entire length of the fence needs to be 50% opacity? It's an
I think
opacity
I thought
versus
it was in
opening.
the front yard, it was supposed to be completely.
It's the front yard needs to be 50% open.
But to your point, I think the regulation speaks to it, assuming that it's the entirety of that portion. It doesn't break it the way that Commissioner James is suggesting to break it.
I know, I'm just wearing.
I'm sympathetic to your question.
I have
I
a
don't- I'm
definition
wearing
for
I'm
you.
wearing Zach's hat right
I have
now.
a definition for you.
Yes.
So while the regulation for the 50% open fence requirement is in Article 21, there is a definition in Article 26 for open fence. And it says, "A fence including any gates designed and constructed so that the surface area of any segment of the fence is at least 50% open."
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
I thought the number 8 and 9 regarding the safety, we passed.
All right, so we're trying to get you there right now. We're just trying to figure out I'm trying to help get you to a medium spot in terms of what the code spells out and what you guys already have in place. So we understand on the criteria. I think we're pretty close. I'm just trying to, yeah, no, I understand this is hard to follow because we kind of nerd out up here, so please.
Yeah, and what I was trying to do was say, if Todd's logic follows, you could have, some opening and then the rest of it could be more solid. But I think that it's really just the whole fence, because it's a front yard, has to be open. Right. Yeah, okay.
So, everyone recognizes that this is not technically a front yard. We don't have any other yards.
Building is and what
Yeah.
the condition is of the street, and it's tricky because it is but
It
it's
is
a
your
corner- but it's a
theoretical
corner.
Yeah, we don't have any other yard space. This wasn't something we,
Sure, but that's the way the site and the way
Yeah.
that the site's laid out. It's not how it's used. Whether you're using it as a backyard, but it's the way that the city code reads how a building fronts on a street is pushing it to be considered front yard.
Yeah, the way the CZO is and follow that rationale. It's strictly based off of dimensions of your lot.
yeah.
and what addresses the right-of-way. So
so how-
we got that point, and
Okay.
that's why I was just trying, so I think
Yeah.
I'm actually ready. I could make a motion if, I don't know if I'm gonna have a second on it.
Go for it.
Fun times. So, Madam Chair, for motions in order.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yes. Proceed.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket number 053-25, my motion is to grant a modified approval of the requested waiver for Article 21, Section 21.6, N.1.A for fence requirements. And in the partial, but the remaining length of fence need be granted as non-open or just
Opaque.
opaque. Thank you.
And to clarify, you're referring to the corners of
The
each,
corner condition,
where
so the first
corners
panel along Regent Street and the first panel along Old Hammond Highway
Okay.
remain 50% open, okay? Now, with regards to the 9 criteria, apparently thunder striking, because I'm grand waivers are on there. As it pertains to the 9 criteria, I do believe that the 9 criteria have been met, because yes, the site is uniquely situated. It does let's take into account, we are dealing with Old Hammond Highway and not an interior street within Lakeview. And because the primary site of traffic within this request. So move for that modified approval, I would say with 2, is it 2 or the 3 provisos?
The staff report has one proviso, just a standard one requiring a site plan and a fence.
Send me a
That.
The next item is BZA docket -25, property located at 509 RD2 Historic Urban Two-Family Residential. The applicant requests .1, Table 11-2, Article Bill 2 line after the fact. The staff has determined that required timelines from both GLC staff's review of the current board. Therefore, staff recommends a 30.
Present for BZA docket.
Good afternoon.
Property. That have everyone get allowed to as opposed to the in anticipation of this meeting. Ever come and Ted come forward. We'll get to the remainder of the, we have the cards for the different oppositions, so we'll get to them. So anyone here in opposition, if you would just come up individually and give your name and address for the record as you start your comments.
Good morning, Board. My name is Donald Fant at 401 Henry Clay Avenue. I'm here on behalf of ARNA, the Audubon Riverside Neighborhood Association. ARNA opposes waivers to the front yard and Bill 2 line for the construction of 509 Exposition. These variances are not supported by the 9 criteria for approval. They would negatively impact the immediate neighbors to the benefit of the owner. The zoning ordinance correctly limits the front yard encroachment to preserve the unique context and character of this historic neighborhood. This is especially the case given the site's prominence on Audubon Park, a landmark city setting. Granting this request would set a bad precedent for future development. Thank you for your consideration.
Good morning, I'm Ted Moses. I live at 501 Exposition, next door to the 509 property, and I'm opposing the variance. This requested variance is required because the owner's civil engineer stamped the drawings and incorrectly depicted the front yard setback as starting after the historic house's front door landings and steps as opposed to at the front wall. The owner is now pleading detrimental reliance, but it was their error and they should be responsible for it. Using the new owner's survey, the alternative method for establishing compliance by averaging adjacent front yards still results in a front porch extending further than either of the two adjacent homes' front build-to lines. This building is out of character and size compared to all houses on the block, and should this variance be denied, correcting this violation can be accomplished without affecting any existing parts of the house. However, approving this variance will incur another violation as the front porch steps will extend towards the park another 4 to 5 feet and would be in violation of CZO Article 21.6 AA, which only allows a 6-foot encroachment into a required yard, including the front steps. As Don mentioned, there are other violations that are fully detailed in, with specific CZO ordinances. First of all, the building is 41 feet 7 inches high, exceeds the maximum allowed by 35 feet. And I've provided a drawing online, which is on the HDLC site on the OneStop app, which shows that the height is exceeding by 6 feet 7 inches. Second of all, they want to enclose the front porch in a protected yard. That's not permitted. They want to cover the front porch in a protected yard. That's not allowed. They want to enclose and condition a balcony in a protected yard and not allowed.
That's the end of your time. Thank you. Pull your card.
Max Moses, 501 Exposition Boulevard.
Thank you.
Wow, that was fast. On July 8th, the HDLC inspected 509 Exposition and issued a failed inspection report for noncompliance with the demolition permit. The owner's voluntary demolition exceeds 50% of this historic home, which means that the 2-foot left side encroachment can no longer be retained, and all work must now be considered as new construction. On August 6th, the HDLC commissioners will be assessing penalties that may include fines and/or construction directives relative to that failed inspection. The neighbors, as Cherie had mentioned, have submitted over 70 opposition letters requesting that the BZA deny this variance. I agree with my neighbors that this variance should be denied, but agree also that delaying a decision pending the HDLC hearing and then allowing the owner to resubmit plans that fully comply with all city ordinances, which includes the building height, enclosing porches, covering porches, conditioning balconies that are 7 feet into a protected yard. That all needs to be resolved prior to really looking at whether this front porch is in violation or not. And I thank you very much.
Hey, good evening. My name's Scott Wolf. I live at 515 Exposition Boulevard. I'm adjacent to the house under construction. And I'm requesting that you do not defer the decision today. I, too, was on vacation and flew in for this meeting, and so I'm sorry if the applicant decided to stay on vacation. As I understand that, historical, as reported to HDLC, needs to comply with new construction. Project also impedes a great deal of Mr. Moses' site of on our setbacks on the side of the house.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Leanne Moses, and this is one of the times when a husband and wife agree. So I live at 501 Exposition, and we live to the right of 509 Exposition. I'm opposed to the variance requested by the owner, who is of 509, seeking to keep, simply put, the need for a variance interpreted, a survey showing the historic building's front porch landing. Unfortunately, you don't get to see the historic building because they removed the facade contrary to the directive of the HDLC and then the city council, which gave them permission to do certain removal work. They are asking to extend their front porch build-to line in violation based upon this misinterpretation of the survey, or just because they want additional space. Rather than comply with the city ordinances, 509 has built whatever they want and then asked for forgiveness by requesting this variance instead of correcting violations, and they have had to correct other violations, including a jut out that went over towards our property line, 509. The extension of the lower porch and added balcony is an attempt to increase the square footage of the house and seek an economic advantage without regard to the historic nature of the prior home, the neighbors, and the neighborhood. The currently submitted revised plans show the front porch completely enclosed by 13-foot floor-to-ceiling shutter walls, and similarly the balcony enclosed with walls and windows as well as being air-conditioned. This requested change will not only extend the porch, but will be the basis for the owner to proceed with enclosing this porch, covering this porch, and enclosing the balcony, thus blocking houses on either side of 509 from being able to see down the block. This creates a safety.
That's the end of your time.
I'm gonna, so blocking the line of sight creates a safety issue for residents as well as for those using the park, in addition to altering the historic appearance of the homes on the block. All these proposed changes violate multiple city ordinances, and as a matter of fact, the owner even told me on the day the stop work order was posted that all of these revised changes and the structure is exactly what she always wanted and had planned. I strongly urge you to deny the requested variance, as this is not a question of aesthetics, but of noncompliance with the city's ordinances, preservation of the historic nature of the neighborhood, and safety. This variance request is only one issue among numerous apparent violations noted in the opposition submitted. All of those violations should be resolved before additional construction occurs. Additionally, as already stated, the HDLC conducted a site inspection on July 8th and failed 509 for demolishing significantly more of the historic home than what was allowed. The HDLC hearing, as noted, is scheduled for August 6th, and the ruling should be considered before the BZA rules on the front porch extension, or the extension, the variance request should be denied today. I want to thank you for your time and consideration. I also want to thank Safety and Permits, because there have been numerous varieties and variations of the plans submitted to them, which are confusing, that have missing information in it, and so it's been very difficult, I know, for them to be able to review this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in opposition? I thought someone was getting up. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else here in opposition that wishes to speak? If you would come to the mic. Seeing none, the applicant's representative has an opportunity to rebut. I don't see Zach. Oh. No rebut. Thank you. Questions from the board? I did just want to clarify, I know one of the speakers mentioned the deferral. I just want to clarify that the deferral is at the request of staff, and we do not have a staff report. So the deferral is being considered in consideration of that at this point. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion?
The motion's in order.
Yep, proceed.
And just to also clarify, I know that we had a stack of other cars that were in opposition. This does get recorded with the record as well. So, Madam Chair, could proceed. With regards to BZA docket number 054-25, my motion is for a 30-day deferral at the request of staff.
Second.
Thank you. With regards to BZA docket 054-25, it's been moved by Commissioner James, second by Commissioner Diaz, to defer the item 30 days. Roll call vote, Todd James.
Yes.
Tamara Eggins.
Yes.
Ramiro Diaz.
Yes.
Jason Richardson.